Okay, so my big issue with this is that, to me, this is all a false dilemma, black and white, false dichotomy. It's an informal fallacy based on the premise that erroneously limits what options are available. The source of the fallacy lies not only in the false acting and lies that are invalid forms of interference and inference, but a false premise. This premise has the form of a disjunctive claim, and it asserts that one among a number of alternatives must be true. This disjuncture and disjunction is problematic because it oversimplifies the choice by excluding viable alternatives in speech also. For example, a false dilemma or an excluding committed claim that, like, Stacy spoke out against capitalism and only therefore she must be a communist. One of the options excluded is that Stacy may be one or the other, capitalist nor communist, and false dilemmas often have the form of treating people like one thing, not which may be false, and the contradictions of one is necessarily untrue. Various infertile females schemes associated with false dilemmas. For example, the constructive dilemma, the destructive dilemma, and the disjunctive syllabalism and syllogism and syllogism. False dilemmas are usually discussed in terms of deductive argument, but they can also occur in fallacy defeasible arguments. Our liability to commit to false dilemmas may be true and due to the tendency of oversimplifying the reality and ordering it through either or statements, which is to some extent already built into our language. This may also be connected to the tendency to insist on clear distinction while denying the vagueness of many common expressions. The definition is a false dilemma is an informal fallacy based on a premise that erroneously limits what options are available. In the most simple form, it's called fallacy of bifurcation, but also has alternatives when excluded. A fallacy is an argument. An example, a series of premises together sewn with a conclusion that is unsound, not both valid and true. Fallacies are usually divided into formal, informal fallacies, and formal ones are the ones that are unsound because of their structure, while informal fallacies are sound because of their content. The problematic in content is, in this case, a false dilemma in form of a disjunctive claim. It asserts that one among a number of alternatives must be true, right? This is a disjunction and is problematic because it oversimplifies the choice of excluding valuable alternatives. Sometimes a distinction between them is made in a false dilemma and a false dichotomy. On this view level, the term false refers to a claim, while the other term refers not just to the claim, but to the argument based on the disjunction with contraries. It's the most common form of a false dilemma, presenting the alternative contradictions, while the truth of many is merely a contrary. The proposition is a contradiction, in which case that is only one truth, and the other one, it's false. The proposition is, on the contrary, if most of them are true, this leaves an option. Both of them might be false, which is not possible in the case of a contradiction. They follow the law of an excluded middle. That's 10 out of 10 presents the contradictory. The sentence, the exact number of marbles in the urn is either 10, 11, 12, presents 2, 3 alternatives. And the urn could also contain 2, 17. A common form of using these dilemmas is a force. Extremes on the agent. Some either good, rich, normal. Such cases ignore. There is a continuation spectrum between the extremes that is excluded from the choice. Therefore, the false dilemmas involve contraries and exclusive options, and are a very common form. This is just a special case. There are also arguments with non-exclusive disjunctions that are, you guessed it, false dilemmas.